What's going on, everybody? Today I'm going to be doing another way too early predictions video for the next college football season. I've been doing a lot of way too early videos and they've gotten a lot of support. I already gave predictions for each conference, but today I wanted to talk about some of my bold predictions for next season. I will basically be given 10 hot takes for the next college football season, and I took my time to try and find 10 interesting takes that most people probably wouldn't agree with. And these are predictions that may get some heat, but that's why they are called bold predictions. But I do think all of these predictions will actually happen. But before we get into this video, let me remind you guys to like the video and also subscribe to the channel. And turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. And if you guys love college football, then you will love this channel, because we upload daily college football content. And we basically cover everything on this channel. So definitely consider subscribing. But anyways, without further ado, let's get into some bold predictions. And my first bold prediction of the video is that Colorado will be better next year, and as of now, I think they will win 7 games, and they will be a lot more competitive next season. I feel like this had to be on the list, because a lot of people aren't high on this Colorado team. Everybody is tired about hearing the hype train of Deion Sanders in Colorado, but I actually think they will be better next year. And you can't ignore the moves that Deion has made in the transfer portal, beefing up both sides of the line of scrimmage. I still think this team has a long way to go to be a top contender. And they probably won't ever make it to being a top contender. But I think we could see a reality where Colorado wins 7 games next year. They have picked up the #1 offensive tackle in the country, Jordan Seaton, who is a 5-star recruit out of high school. But they also have the 6th best transfer portal group. And they have brought in 23 players and 6 4-stars. And they picked up some decent defensive linemen. And all around, they should be a more complete team next year with the work that they've done in the transfer portal. And not only will they be better, but the competition may just be easier joining the Big 12 Conference, and they won't have to play teams like Oregon or Washington. They will have skill position players Shadir Sanders and Travis Hunter returning, but it will be interesting to see if they get better on the defensive side, and also the offensive line, because they have a lot of work to do. But I do expect them to be a little bit better. They won't be great, but they will be solid. And that's my prediction for Colorado football next season. But my second prediction of the video isn't necessarily that a team will be better, but my next prediction is that Washington will be a lot worse. And I think they could possibly lose at least 4 games next season. A lot of people still think Washington will be a top 5 team in the Big Ten, but I don't think people actually realize Washington is literally losing like their whole team. But they also lost head coach Kalen DeBoer. But I will say Jedd Fisch was a decent replacement at head coach. And maybe you guys will be a lot better down the line, but I think it will be a tough first year for Washington in the Big Ten. They just lost way too much talent, and I legitimately don't know who their quarterback is going to be next season. Their schedule is going to be pretty tough. They play Michigan, Oregon, Penn State, and USC. They could possibly win one of those 4 games, but then they also play Iowa, Washington State, and UCLA. Those are definitely winnable, but I don't see Washington winning any more than 8 games next season. I expect 7 or 5 or 8-4 from them. And honestly, with how much they lost, they could lose more games. But it's still way too early to tell, and maybe they find players in the transfer portal, but right now it's not looking so great for Washington's future. They lost a lot of NFL talent, and they should really take a step back. And this honestly might be a TCU situation where they end up going 5-7 after making the national championship game the year before. But I don't know about 5-7 because they have some easy wins on that schedule. But right now my prediction is that they will lose at least 4 games next season. But for my next prediction, I think Alabama will either miss the 12-team playoffs or they will sneak their way in. Alabama really is a confusing team. They just lost head coach Nick Saban and they lost a bunch of players. Not just any players, but 5-star players. But I still think there's a lot of talent on this team. And Kalen DeBoer is a good coach. And I do see a world where Alabama does make the playoffs. But I honestly don't see a world where they win the SEC, at least next season. Because it's looking very tough for them next year as of now. I expect Texas and Georgia to be better than them. But I also expect another SEC team to be better than them that I will talk about later in this video. But I don't want to spoil that team yet. But all I'm saying is Alabama will have tough competition in the SEC. And if they finish 4th in the SEC, then they might not make the playoffs. So I think Alabama could get left out, or they could be one of those last teams to sneak their way into the 12-team playoffs if they decide to take 4 teams out of the SEC, which is very possible, so we'll see. But my next prediction is that Florida State will win the ACC, and they will still be very good. I don't know if people consider this a bold take, but I figure I would put this one on the list because I think there's a chance where they make a run in the playoffs, and they possibly have a chance to be one of the Final 4 teams. And I expect this Florida State team to be really good despite everything they're losing because they've done a spectacular job in recruiting and in the transfer portal at picking up replacements. And they brought in new quarterback DJ Uiagalelei, who could be decent under the system at Florida State. DJ can throw the ball deep, but he can also work under center. And he can be good with the right team around him, and he's only going to keep getting better. I think Mike Novell is a really good coach, and he will keep this team near the top for a while. And I do think Florida State will win the ACC, but my next bold prediction is that Kansas State will win the Big 12 next season. I think this team is set up perfectly to win the Big 12 after the departure of Texas and Oklahoma. And I know a lot of people probably have Arizona or Utah winning the Big 12, or even Oklahoma State winning the Big 12, but I think Kansas State will be better than Oklahoma State. But I also think Arizona will not win the Big 12 anymore because they lost their head coach and they're starting to lose a bunch of players. And I also don't think Utah will win the Big 12 because Cam Rising may just be too rusty and there's still some offensive concerns with Utah. But I think Kansas State is the perfect choice to win the Big 12. And I think everything is set up perfectly for Kansas State. They have a decent quarterback going forward and they have a really good offensive line, but they should have a really solid defense as well. And I think Kansas State gets the job done and wins the Big 12 championship and makes the playoffs. But my next prediction should create some heat, but I actually think USC is going to be a lot better. Maybe not at the level of competing for the Big Ten championship, but I think they could very well finish top 5 in the Big Ten, and I think we could see improvement from the defense. They have signed an elite defensive coaching staff. I'm talking former NFL assistant and former FCS head coach who won multiple national titles. I think Lincoln Riley is finally putting in work to make the defense better. And I don't see a world where the defense is nearly as bad as it was this past season, and the defense should be at least average. And the offense will be completely fine with Miller Moss leading the way, and Lincoln Riley always has a good offense. But now it's going to come down to the improvements the defense can make. And I could possibly see a world where USC goes 8-4 or 9-3 next season, even with a pretty tough schedule. And I think a good coaching staff can make a huge difference. They play Notre Dame and LSU out of conference. I could see them splitting those games. But then they also have winnable games against Washington, Nebraska, UCLA, and Wisconsin. But they have easy games as well. But they have tough games against Penn State and Michigan that they will probably lose because their defense will not be great. But I still think USC could shock some people and maybe pull off an upset in some of their big games next season. But it's going to be interesting to see. But I could see USC winning 8 or even 9 games. But my next prediction is that Ole Miss will start the season ranked in the top 7, and they will have a very good season and finish above Alabama and right behind Georgia and Texas in the SEC. So I have them finishing 3rd in the SEC, and I would not be surprised if Ole Miss made a run in the playoffs. I've talked about it so much in my videos about how good this team could possibly be next year. The defensive players that they've picked up in the portal, and the fact that they have the second best transfer portal group and picked up 5-star defensive lineman Walter Nolan, but also a bunch of other 4-stars on defense. But on top of all of this, their offense should be really good again with Jackson Dart returning. And Ole Miss had a very impressive end to the season, basically destroying Penn State, who had an elite defense. And Ole Miss scored 38 on that Penn State defense. And this Ole Miss team could honestly be a legit national title contender with a potentially dangerous defense. And the defense wasn't necessarily terrible this past season. It just wasn't great, and it needed some help. But Lane Kiffin has went crazy in the transfer portal, and I think this Ole Miss team has a lot of momentum going forward. So watch out for Ole Miss. That's all I'm saying. But my next prediction is that quarterback Dillon Gabriel for the Oregon Ducks will win the Heisman Trophy next season. I think everything is set up for this offense to be just as good as it was with Bo Nix, and possibly even better. Dillon Gabriel has showed his capabilities to play at a high level already and led Oklahoma to a game-winning drive against Texas that won Oklahoma the game. And halfway through the season, he was the Heisman favorite. But now that he's going to Oregon, which is a team with potentially one of the best receiving corps in the country next year, they picked up 5-star Evan Stewart out of the portal. They have Tej Johnson, Trayshawn Holden, and Gary Bryant Jr. returning, but also another 5-star receiver waiting for his time to shine. But also 2 really solid tight ends. The people that Dillon Gabriel will have to throw the ball to is going to be insane. Dillon Gabriel is a dual threat quarterback who can also run the ball. And it's going to be crazy seeing him in that Oregon offensive system. And I honestly think he will win the Heisman. And it reminds me a lot of Marcus Mariota, who won the Heisman about a decade ago for Oregon. And Dillon Gabriel and Marcus Mariota have a couple things in common. They're both Hawaiian and they both wear number 8. But they also have similar play styles. So it's looking like Dillon Gabriel could bring home the Heisman. But Texas quarterback Quinn Ewers could potentially win it too. So watch out for Quinn Ewers. I'm interested to see the Heisman race next season. It will be a fun season. But for my next prediction, I actually have Boise State being the best Group of 5 team and making the 12-team playoffs. They have a lot of positives going forward. They have a new head coach, and they have a lot of guys returning. And I feel like everything is set up for this team to have a successful run. They also picked up former 5-star quarterback out of high school Malachi Nelson from USC. And this Boise State defense should also be legit. And they had a really good end to the season. But unfortunately, the UCLA loss in the bowl game kind of made this team look bad. But I think they will be a very solid team next year. But also watch out for Tulane and Memphis. But I still think Boise State has the edge on defense. But for my last bold prediction of the video, I have Ohio State winning the Big Ten next season. And I left this for last because let's just say, this may have been the boldest take of the video. I think Ohio State finally gets the job done and beats Michigan. Then I think they win the Big Ten championship. And I also think Ohio State will be one of the best teams next year. I'm not sure how I feel about them signing a new offensive coordinator, Bill O'Brien. A lot of people weren't too happy about that. And to be honest, I don't know much about Bill O'Brien. So I'm not going to cover that topic too much. I don't really watch the NFL. But what I do know is that Ohio State has literally brought back like almost their whole team. And they have a bunch of NFL talent returning. And they brought in a very good running back in Quinshon Judkins. So they're set at running back with the 1-2 punch between Chevion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins. But they also picked up quarterback Will Howard, who in my opinion is a very underrated addition to the team, and I think he's an upgrade from Kyle McCord. But on top of all of this, their defense is going to be really good again, and they managed to bring Denzel Burke back. But they also just picked up 5-star safety from Alabama, Caleb Downs, who was one of the best freshmen all year. I don't know how Ryan Day brought all this NFL talent back, but he did. And I really think Ohio State will finally beat Michigan, and they will be a championship caliber team. And I think Michigan is going to take a step back, possibly losing Jim Harbaugh and losing a lot of talent. But Oregon could be a team to contend with Ohio State. But right now, my safe choice is Ohio State. And I just don't think Michigan will be as good as they were this past season. And I think this sets up perfectly for Ohio State to make a statement and be the best team in the Big Ten. So that was my last bold prediction. But anyways, that's going to do it for the video. You guys let me know what you agree with down in the comments below. But also let me know what you disagree with. But before you click off this video, make sure you like the video and also subscribe to the channel. And turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. And if you guys love college football, then you will love this channel because we upload daily college football content and we basically cover everything on this channel. So definitely consider subscribing. That's going to do it, guys, and peace out.